1 in 3 people walking around right now is carrying what I call a disease factory. And they have no idea. This isn't about vanity. This is about whether you'll be alive in 10 years. I need to tell you something most fitness influencers will never admit. Everything we've been taught about body fat is wrong. And I helped spread that lie. For years, I stood in my clinic and told patients the same garbage everyone else preaches. Eat less, move more, problem solved. Then I actually read the research. I was completely wrong. Here's what nobody tells you when they're tearing someone apart on social media for how they look. Fat isn't just storage sitting there doing nothing. It's not a fuel tank. It's an organ. A living, breathing, hormonally active organ that releases up to 50 different chemical messengers into your bloodstream every single day. 50 different signals. Go ask the Instagram trainers at your gym to name even 5 of those molecules. They can't, because we've turned one of the most complex endocrine systems in your body into a joke about willpower. Some of those chemical signals control whether you feel hungry or full. Others regulate your blood sugar and insulin sensitivity. Some manage your immune system's ability to detect and destroy cancer cells. Others trigger inflammation that destroys your joints, clogs your arteries, and shrinks your brain. This isn't about fitting into your genes. This is about whether your organs can survive the next decade. Now let's talk about what fat actually is, because most people think it's all the same. It's not. There are 3 major types, and the difference between them determines whether you live or die early. First, subcutaneous fat, the stuff you can grab on your stomach or thighs. Annoying, but relatively harmless. Second, visceral fat, the dangerous kind that grows deep inside your abdomen, strangling your intestines, smothering your liver, wrapping around your kidneys like a python. You can't see it from the outside, but I see it every single time I operate on someone with metabolic disease. Their belly looks firm, almost muscular, but when I cut them open, it's like opening a stuffed suitcase. There's barely room to move my instruments. Then there's the third kind, ectopic fat. That's fat showing up in places it should never exist. Inside your liver, woven through your muscle tissue, wrapped around your heart. When I see that on an ultrasound, I know I'm not dealing with someone who just needs to eat more salad. I'm looking at metabolic catastrophe. But here's where it gets even weirder. Not all fat behaves the same way. There's white fat, the kind that stores energy and pumps out hormones like leptin to regulate your appetite. That's what most people are trying to lose. Then there's brown fat, metabolically active tissue that actually burns calories just to generate heat. Babies are packed with it. That's how they survive cold when adults would freeze to death. Brown fat clusters around major blood vessels, between your shoulder blades, deep in your armpits. Ever notice your armpits are almost never cold, even in winter? That's brown fat keeping those blood vessels warm. And then there's beige fat. And no, I'm not making this up. Beige fat is white fat that's been transformed through consistent exercise and cold exposure. It's what happens when you train hard enough that your fat cells start growing more mitochondria, those microscopic power plants inside every cell. It's a sign you're moving in the right direction metabolically. But here's the part nobody wants to hear. Not everyone who exercises hard ends up lean. I've treated professional fighters who go 12 brutal rounds and still carry extra weight. They're incredibly fit cardiovascularly. They're just not thin. And that's where this whole conversation gets uncomfortable. Your body has a set point, a genetically preferred weight it will defend with everything it's got. When you drop below that weight, your body cranks up your hunger hormones and slams the brakes on your metabolism. When you push above it, your appetite drops and your metabolic rate increases. Your body is fighting to stay in a specific range, and that range was mostly determined before you took your first breath. It starts in the womb. If your mother was drowning in chronic stress while she was pregnant with you, working brutal hours, dealing with an abusive relationship, flooded with cortisol day after day, that rewired your metabolic programming before you were born. You were set up to struggle with weight for the rest of your life. Then there's your first few years of life. What you ate and how you were fed between birth and age 5 laid down the blueprint for how many fat cells you'd carry into adulthood. You had no say in it. Here's the part that makes people furious. The number of fat cells in your body can increase throughout your life, And once they're created, they stick around for about 10 years. Only about 10% of your fat cells die and get replaced each year. That means the spare tire you're carrying right now. Some of those cells might have formed from a binge you had a decade ago. You're literally wearing last decade's bad decisions on your waistline, and there's almost nothing you can do to get rid of them faster. And when those fat cells stretch to capacity, when they're so bloated they can't get enough oxygen from your blood supply, they start screaming for help. They dump inflammatory chemicals into your bloodstream like a building on fire. That's why people carrying excess fat have more joint pain, higher rates of heart disease, worse hormone profiles, and faster cognitive decline. This isn't about looking good on the beach. This is about your fat cells suffocating and dragging the rest of your body down with them. Now here's where I lose half of you. Not everyone who's overweight is that way because they're lazy or undisciplined. Some people are that size because their body wants to be that size. I've worked with patients who eat clean, train 6 days a week, and still can't drop below a certain weight without their entire life collapsing. Their energy evaporates, their sleep turns to garbage, their hormones crater, their mood spirals, because they're fighting their genetic set point, and their body will burn their life to the ground before it lets them stay below that weight. That set point is usually close to what you weighed around age 20 to 25, assuming you were living a reasonably normal life back then, and not starving yourself. Anything significantly above that is usually environmental damage piling on year after year. But your baseline? That's written in your DNA. And some people's baseline is naturally higher than others, no matter what they do. I see this in my own body. I'm 240 pounds. According to the standard BMI charts, I'm clinically obese. But when I try to drop below 220, my body goes to war with me. My appetite skyrockets, my energy crashes, my strength plummets in the gym. That's my set point screaming at me to stop. And if I push past it anyway, I'm not getting healthier. I'm just making myself miserable and destroying my quality of life. This is why shaming people for their weight isn't just cruel. It's scientifically ignorant. You don't know their genetics. You don't know what happened to them before they were born. You don't know what their hormone panel looks like or whether their leptin receptors even work anymore. You don't know if they're fighting an uphill metabolic war every single day while you coast on favorable genetics and call it discipline. You have no idea what battle they're fighting. But let's not swing too far the other way either. There's a massive difference between accepting your natural build and ignoring genuine health risks staring you in the face. If you're carrying 10% or more above your healthy range and you keep gaining weight easily without changing anything, that's a red flag. That's your body screaming that something's broken. It might be your thyroid shutting down. It might be insulin resistance. It might be cortisol dysregulation from chronic stress. But it's not just how you're built. It's a metabolic alarm bell, and you need to listen before it's too late. The worst thing you can do is let some 22-year-old Instagram trainer tell you it's all about discipline and you're just weak. The second worst thing you can do is tell yourself your 300-pound frame is perfectly fine because all bodies are beautiful. Both of those statements are dangerous lies. One ignores basic biology. The other ignores life-threatening risk. Neither one will keep you alive. Here's what I need you to understand. Your weight is shaped by factors you can control and factors you absolutely cannot. Your genetics, your prenatal environment, your early childhood nutrition. Those are locked in stone. Your current diet, your activity level, your sleep quality, your stress management. Those you can change. But the changes you make have to be sustainable for years, not weeks. If you're white-knuckling your way through a miserable diet that makes you want to drive off a bridge, you're not building health. You're building your next binge. And if you're someone who's been struggling with weight your entire adult life despite doing everything right, according to the internet, get your blood work done. Find a doctor who will actually look at your thyroid panel, your fasting insulin, your cortisol rhythm, your inflammatory markers. Don't let anyone, not a trainer, not an influencer, not even your own family, tell you it's just about effort and you're not trying hard enough. Sometimes it's about hormones that stopped working years ago. Sometimes it's about leptin resistance your body developed as a teenager. Sometimes it's about metabolic damage that was done to you before you even had a voice. Your body is infinitely more complicated than a simple calorie equation. Start treating it that way. Next time someone tells you to just eat less and move more, look them in the eye and ask them to name 3 hormones that regulate fat storage and release. When they stare at you blankly, walk away. And next week, I'm going to tell you exactly what blood tests to demand if you suspect your weight problem isn't just about food. Because nobody else is going to give you this information. Nobody. Now, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below with your height, your current weight, and whether you've ever been told your numbers don't match how healthy you actually are. Let's prove once and for all that the charts don't tell the whole story. And if you've ever been called lazy because you can't lose weight no matter what you try, send them this video. Then find yourself a better trainer who actually understands biology.